we are going to be reading the Bible, and then we are going to be reading, not reading, sorry. Then you're going to be doing the synopsis, and then we are going to be reading The Magician's Nephew. I remembered it this time. Um, there's nobody on yet.
That's okay.
Yeah. I'm handing it off to my dad. Alright.
Good morning, good evening, salutations. Thank you for joining us. Sorry, I did not have my microphone up. And I just lost my page. I'm going to put that right there so I don't lose it. And how is everyone today? All right. And my hair's a mess. All right. So, good to see you. I am in Genesis chapter 3. So, Genesis chapter 3 is the story of the fall. And I had a note card, and I don't know what I did with it. Oh, it's right here. Okay. JJ buried it with whatever he was playing with. All right. So I see nobody on just yet, but I am going to go ahead and get started reading the Bible. There's one person, one like. I appreciate you. You're awesome. I love you, Kimmy. And we're going to start reading the Bible. This is, like I said, Genesis chapter 3. As always, from the English Standard Version. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, "Did God actually say you shall not eat of any tree in the garden?" And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die." But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. Sorry, I tried to say that in one breath. I didn't make it. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" And he said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself." He said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat?" The man said, "The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit of the tree, and I ate." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." The Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock, and above all beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." To the woman he said, "I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you." And to Adam he said, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return." The man called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. And the Lord God made for Adam and for his wife garments and skins, and clothed them. Then the Lord God said, "Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. Now lest he reach out his hand and take also the tree of life and eat, and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him out of the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. So this is, of course, kind of a very sad story that happened a long time ago in the history of mankind. And so we're not reading The Magician's Nephew. In a little bit, we'll be reading The Magician's Nephew. Right now, we were reading the Bible. And now I've got a little note card that's going to make everybody feel better, because actually there's better verses that I could use, but this is the verse. I've been doing verses every day from the book of Romans, and so this is the one, and it's probably in reverse order for you, but it's Romans 10:9 and 10. Because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. So that's a nice verse to realize that we are dead in our sin. We can't do anything that's going to glorify God on our own. So we really need Jesus in order to be that person that's going to save us. We need to confess with our mouth and believe in our hearts. So that was kind of a verse to counteract the negative story that we read. Okay, so we are reading in chapter 3 of The Magician's Nephew now. Last time we kind of really got to meet Digory's uncle, Uncle Andrew, and Uncle Andrew's a really cool guy. Uncle Andrew is very chivalrous. In fact, he offered to go after Polly himself, but Digory said, no. I've got this, Uncle Andrew. Polly's my friend. I'm going to go into whatever dangers lurk, wherever that ring takes us, that yellow ring. Please give me a yellow ring so that I can go there, and a green ring, actually 2 of them, so that we can come home. That's kind of pretty much how it happened. Isn't that right, Kimmy? She's shaking her head. So I think she knows a little bit, maybe something I don't know. Here she is.
So
You have to hold it up.
So what happened in the last chapter, was Uncle Andrew, he spent most of the chapter telling Digory how he came upon these yellow and green rings. Basically, what he said was there was somebody who told him where to find this box that was older than every single well-known civilization. In fact, it is ancient and Atlantean, and the contents of this box came from another world, which he used to make the rings. And touching one of the rings would send you to another world. And Polly had gone to this other world when she touched one of the rings. I forget which one did which. Wasn't it the green that brought you back?
The yellow sends you to the other world, and Uncle Andrew thinks possibly the green one sends you back, but he doesn't really know because he's only tested on guinea pigs.
He's only tested it on guinea pigs.
And he's never actually interviewed any of the guinea pigs. Can you believe that? How rude.
Wow. I mean, mad scientists, some of them do better than that. Not all of them. But anyway, he has gotten Digory to get 2 green rings and 1 yellow so that he can take Polly back. And I think, wasn't he gonna get Uncle Andrew to come with him? I think. I'm not entirely certain on that. Don't quote me.
Pretty sure Uncle Andrew stayed in this study.
Yeah. Because he is very not chivalrous and very naughty. He even bragged about being told by his friend, hey, please burn this box for me. I'm about to die, kind of thing. And he's like, yep, definitely. And then he goes and doesn't burn it. So and he bragged about the fact that that's what he did. But anyway, long story short, I'm going to hand it off to Dad so that he can read the rest of the story.
And by hand it off, there's not actually any handoff because we do have two microphones. However, she did get up from the seat, so I think that's what she meant. And so I just want to say really quickly, the last time that we read the Chronicles of Narnia, of course, we did it in the chronologically published order of the Chronicles of Narnia. This is just a little side note. And it took 49 um, videos in order to get all the way through the book. And so that's actually kind of what inspired me to go with Genesis. So I am going to be doubling up some of the chapters, but I need to be careful how many of them that I double up because I want to make sure that I have 50 videos for this one since Genesis has 50 chapters. That's just a little side note just for your information. This, of course, is the third video on this. I'll make it into a playlist. This is the third video. I do see hi, hello, and so I just say hi, hello back. So, all right. So I'm not gonna be like interacting regularly with the comments because I obviously can't read this and that at the same time. All right, so let's just keep going. This is The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis, Chapter 3, The Wood Between the Worlds. Uncle Andrew and his study vanished instantly. Then, for a moment, everything became muddled. The next thing Digory knew was that there was a soft green light coming down on him from above and darkness below. He didn't seem to be standing on anything or sitting or lying. Nothing appeared to be touching him. I believe I'm in water, said Digory, or underwater. This frightened him for a second, but almost at once he could feel that he was rushing upward. Then his head suddenly came out into the air, and he found himself scrambling ashore out onto smooth grassy ground at the edge of a pool. As he rose to his feet, he noticed that he was neither dripping nor panting for breath as anyone would expect after being underwater. His clothes were perfectly dry. He was standing by the edge of a small pool, not more than 10 feet from side to side in a wood. The trees grew close together and were so leafy that he could get no glimpse of the sky. All the light was green light that came through the leaves, but there must have been a very strong sun overhead, for this green daylight was bright and warm. It was the quietest wood you could possibly imagine. There were no birds, no insects, no animals, and no wind. You could almost feel the trees growing. The pool he had just got out of was not the only pool. There were dozens of others, a pool every few yards as far as the eyes could reach. You could almost feel the trees drinking the water up with their roots. This wood was very much alive. When he tried to describe it afterward, Digory always said it was a rich place, as rich as plum cake. The strangest thing was that, almost before he had looked about him, Digory had half forgotten how he had come there. At any rate, he was certainly not thinking about Polly or Uncle Andrew or even his mother. He was not in the least frightened or excited or curious. If anyone had asked him, "Where are you from?" or "Where did you come from?" same difference, he would probably have said, "I have always been here." That was what it felt like, as if one had always been in that place and never been bored about, although nothing had ever happened. As he said long afterward, it's not the sort of place where things happen. The trees go on growing, that's all. After Digory had looked at the wood for a long time, he noticed that there was a girl lying on her back at the foot of the tree a few yards away. Her eyes were nearly shut, but not quite, as if she were just between sleeping and waking. So he looked at her for a long time and said nothing. And at last she opened her eyes and looked at him for a long time, and she also said nothing. Then she spoke in a dreamy, contented sort of voice. "I think I've seen you before," she said. "I rather think so too," said Digory. "Have you been here long?" "Oh, always," said the girl. At least, I don't know. A very long time. So have I, said Digory. No, you haven't, said she. I've just seen you come up out of that pool. Yes, I suppose I did, said Digory with a puzzled air. I'd forgotten. Then, for quite a long time, neither said any more. Look here, said the girl presently. I wonder, did we ever really meet before? I had a sort of idea, a sort of picture in my head of a boy and a girl like us, living somewhere quite different, and doing all sorts of things. Perhaps it was only a dream. I've had that same dream, I think, said Digory, about a boy and a girl living next door, and something about crawling among rafters. I remember the girl had a dirty face. Aren't you getting it mixed? In my dream, it was the boy who had a dirty face. It's sort of like Kimberly and I not agreeing on the synopsis. It's fine. I can't remember the boy's face, said Digory, and then added, Hello, what's that? Why, it's a guinea pig, said the girl, and it was a fat guinea pig nosing about in the grass. But round the middle of the guinea pig there ran a tape, and then, tied to it by the tape, was a bright yellow ring. Look, look, cried Digory, the ring, and look, you've got one on your finger, and so have I. The girl now sat up, really interested at last. They stared very hard at one another, trying to remember, and then, at exactly the same moment, she shouted out, Mr. Ketterly, and he shouted out, Uncle Andrew, and they knew who they were and began to remember the whole story. After a few minutes of hard talking, they had got it straight. Digory explained how beastly Uncle Andrew had been. What do we do now? Said Polly. Take the guinea pig and go home? There's no hurry, said Digory with a huge yawn. I think there is, said Polly. This place is too quiet. It's so dreamy. You're almost asleep. If we once give in to it, we shall just lie down and drowse forever and ever. It's very nice here, said Digory. Yes, it is, said Polly. But we've got to get back. She stood up and began to go cautiously toward the guinea pig, but then she changed her mind. We might as well leave the guinea pig, she said. It's perfectly happy here, and your uncle will only do something horrid to it if we take it home. I bet he would, answered Digory. Look at the way he's treated us. By the way, how do we get home? Go back into the pool, I expect. They came and stood together at the edge, looking down into the smooth water. It was full of the reflection of the green leafy branches. They made it look very deep. We haven't any bathing things, said Polly. We shan't need them, silly, said Digory. We're going in with our clothes on. Don't you remember? It didn't wet us on the way up. Can you swim? A bit. Can you? Well, not much. I don't think we shall need to swim, said Digory. We want to go down, don't we? Neither of them much liked the idea of jumping into the pool, but neither of them said so to the other. They took hands and said 1, 2, 3, go, and jumped. There was a great splash, and of course they closed their eyes. But when they opened them again, they found they were still standing hand in hand in that green wood and hardly up to their ankles in water. The pool was apparently only a couple of inches deep. They splashed back onto the dry ground. What on earth's gone wrong? Said Polly, in a frightened voice, but not quite so frightened as you might expect, because it is hard to feel really frightened in that wood. The place is too peaceful. Oh, I know, said Digory. Of course it won't work. We're still wearing our yellow rings. They're for the outward journey, you know. The green ones take you home. We must change rings. Have you got pockets? Good. Put your yellow ring in your left. I've got 2 greens. Here, one for you. They put on their green rings and came back to the pool. But before they tried another jump, Digory gave a long, "Ooh." What's the matter? Said Polly. I've just had a really wonderful idea, said Digory. What are all the other pools? How do you mean? Why, if we can get back to our own world by jumping into this pool, mightn't we get somewhere else by jumping into one of the others? Supposing there was a world at the bottom of every pool. But I thought we were already in your Uncle Andrew's other world, or other place, or whatever he called it. Didn't you say—" "Oh, bother Uncle Andrew," interrupted Digory. "I don't believe he knows anything about it. He's never had the pluck to try to come here himself. He only talked of one other world. But suppose there were dozens." "You mean this wood might be only one of them?" "No, I don't believe this wood is a world at all. I think it's just sort of a in-between place." Polly looked puzzled. "Don't you see?" said Digory. "No, do listen. Think of our tunnel under the slates at home. It isn't a room in any of the houses. In a way, it isn't really part of any of the houses. But once you're in the tunnel, you can go along it and come out into any of the houses in the row. Mightn't this wood be the same? A place that isn't in any of the worlds, but once you've found the place that you can't get in, that you can get into them all." "Well, even if you can," began Polly, but Digory went on as if he hadn't heard her. "And, of course, that explains everything," he said. "That's why it is so quiet and sleepy here. Nothing ever happens here. Like at home, it's in the houses that people talk and do things and have meals. Nothing goes on in the in-between places, behind the walls and above the ceilings and under the floor, or in our own tunnel. But when you come out of our tunnel, you may find yourself in any house. I think we can get out of this place into jolly well anywhere. We don't need to jump back into the same pool we came up by, or not just yet." "The wood between the worlds," said Polly dreamily. "Sounds rather nice." "Come on," said Digory. "Which pool shall we try?" "Look here," said Polly. "I'm not going to try any new pool till we've made sure we can get back by the old one. We're not even sure it'll work yet." "Yes," said Digory, "and get caught by Uncle Andrew and have our rings taken away before we've had any fun. No thanks." "Couldn't we just go part of the way down into our pool?" said Polly, "just to see if it works. Then, if it does, we'll change—" I think it dropped me for a second. Can we go part of the way down? Well, it took time coming up. I suppose it'll take a little time going back. Digory made rather a fuss about agreeing to this, but he had to in the end, because Polly absolutely refused to do any exploring in the new worlds until she had made sure about getting back to the old one. She was quite as brave as he about some dangers, wasps, for instance, but she was not so interested in finding out things nobody had ever heard of before, for Digory was the sort of person who wants to know everything, and when he grew up he became the famous Professor Kirk who comes into other books. After a good deal of arguing, they agreed to put on their green rings, green for safety, said Digory, so you can't help remembering which is which, and hold hands and jump. But as soon as they seemed to be getting back to Uncle Andrew's study, or even to their own world, Polly was to shout, "Change!" and they would slip off their greens and put on their yellows. Digory wanted to be the one who shouted change, but Polly wouldn't agree. They put on the green rings, took hands, and once more shouted, 1, 2, 3, go! This time, it worked. It is very hard to tell you what it felt like, for everything happened so quickly. At first there were bright lights moving about in a black sky. Digory always thinks these were stars, and even swears that he saw Jupiter quite close enough to see its moon. But almost at once there were rows and rows of roofs and chimney pots about them, and they could see St. Paul's and knew they were looking at London. But you could see through the walls of all the houses. Then they could see Uncle Andrew, very vague and shadowy, but getting clearer and more solid looking all the time, just as if he were coming into focus. But before he became quite real, Polly shouted, "Change!" And they did change, and our world faded away like a dream, and the green light above grew stronger and stronger till their heads came out of the pool, and they scrambled ashore, and there was the wood all about them, as green and bright and still as ever. The whole thing had taken less than a minute. "There," said Digory, "that's all right. Now for the adventure. Any pool will do. Come on, let's try that one." "Stop," said Polly. "Aren't we going to mark this pool?" They stared at each other and turned quite white as they realized the dreadful thing that Digory had just been going to do. For there were any number of pools in the wood, and the pools were all alike, and the trees were all alike, so that if they had once left behind the pool that led to our own world without making some sort of landmark, the chances would have been 100 to 1 against their ever finding it again. Digory's hand was shaking as he opened his penknife and cut out a long strip of turf on the bank of the pool. The soil, which smelled nice, was of a rich reddish brown and showed up well against the green. It's a good thing one of us has some sense, said Polly. Well, don't keep on gassing about it, said Digory. Come along. I want to see what's in one of the other pools. And Polly gave him a pretty sharp answer, and he said something even nastier in reply. Wow. The quarrel lasted for several minutes, but it would be dull to write it all down. Let us skip on to the moment at which they stood with beating hearts and rather scared faces on the edge of the unknown pool with the yellow rings on, and held hands and once more said, 1, 2, 3, go! Splash. Once again it hadn't worked. This pool, too, appeared to be only a puddle. Instead of reaching a new world, they only got their feet wet and splashed their legs for a second time that morning. If it wasn't a morning, it seems to be always the same time in the wood between the worlds. Blast and botheration, exclaimed Digory. What's gone wrong now? We put our yellow rings on all right. He said yellow for the outward journey. Now the truth was that Uncle Andrew, who knew nothing about the wood between the worlds, had quite a wrong idea about the rings. The yellow ones weren't outward rings, and the green ones weren't homeward rings, at least not in the way he thought. The stuff of which both were made had all come from the wood. The stuff in the yellow rings had the power of drawing you into the wood. It was the stuff that wanted to get back into its own place, the in-between place. But the stuff in the green rings is stuff that is trying to get out of its own place, so that a green ring would take you out of the wood into a world. Uncle Andrew, you see, was working with things he did not really understand. Most magicians are. Of course, Digory did not realize the truth quite clearly either, or not till later, but when they had talked it over, they decided to try their green rings on the new pool, just to see what happened. I'm game if you are, said Polly, but she really said this because in her heart of hearts she now felt sure that neither kind of ring was going to work at all in the new pool, and so there was nothing worse to be afraid of than another splash. I'm not quite sure that Digory had not the same feeling. At any rate, when they had both put on their greens and come back to the edge of the water and taken hands again, they were certainly a good deal more cheerful and less solemn than they had been the first time. 1, 2, 3, go, said Digory, and they jumped. And that is the end of chapter 3. So next chapter is called chapter 4, The Bell and the Hammer. And the first word is there. So that's where we will stop for the evening. I did want to talk real quickly about logistics for this channel. In general, we are approaching marching season. This is JJ who introduced today. It's his first freshman year in marching band. Yay. And so we're probably not going to be available on Thursday or Friday or some Saturdays and Wednesdays because of church. So probably we're going to be posting in general. My goal is to start between 8:30 and 9. I know that's kind of a time lapse, and that's not usually the best way to do these live streams, but somewhere between 8:30 and 9, start it, and we'll try to do it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So if we can do 4 days a week, then at least through marching season, and then we can keep going once the football team loses. Once marching season ends, and then the schedule will be a little bit more free. We can experiment with different days. So anyway, all that kind of rambling mess, but I hope that you're enjoying The Magician's Nephew. I hope that you're enjoying the book of Genesis, one of my 66 favorite books in the Bible. And so I will bid you adieu and have a great night, and God bless.